go ahead and I want to introduce our speaker. On April 22, 2008, a Lancaster native humbly took the oath of office and became the third directly elected mayor of the city of Lancaster. The ability to serve his community as mayor represented the culmination of a life of personal struggles and the accomplishment of momentous goals. With that, I'd like to introduce to you Mayor R. Rex Parris.
I have a presentation about the economic development of Lancaster that we'll talk about in a minute, but I first want to talk about the incident that happened on Saturday morning, or Sunday morning, Saturday night. It brought home to all of us that as much progress as we've made in dealing with this gang problem, it's still there. And just when we start to relax a little bit, it rears its head. And in this case, it was the head of a dragon and killed a 14-year-old girl, which to me is just unfathomable. And it could have been 5 young people instead of 1. I mean, this could have been a national tragedy. And we have no one to really blame for this but ourselves, because we know just how violent and dangerous these parties have become. And most of us, I'm probably one of the oldest people in the room, so I don't know where people are in regards to the spectrum. But I remember parties that the worst thing that could happen is you might get in a fight, and it'd be a fight one-on-one. And, as bad as those were, it wasn't life-threatening. Today, that's just not the case. Every single party for young people is a potential life-threatening situation. And depending on the group of kids that are having it, it becomes more and more dangerous. But let's not kid ourselves. Even in gated communities, a young people's party is an attractant, and it attracts people that want to get in, and some of those people have guns. And we live in an age where when you mix drugs, alcohol, youth, and then you add guns to it, the result is absolutely preordained. It's just preordained what's going to happen. Which means we as a community have got to get far more aggressive than we have been. I'm extremely proud of the city, the Sheriff's Department and what they've done. We now have a response force that is there that fast. Those calls come in and they are there. And they are trained on how to bust these parties up with as minimal pain as possible. Meaning, our goal isn't to arrest people. Our goal is to just get these kids to go home. But if people don't call, or if people allow their kids to go to these parties, there's not a whole lot they can do. And I think that's why the responsibility falls on us as a community. I'm not going to sit and wait for the next one to happen. One of the things we're doing this week is we're shifting our volunteers. We have these volunteers driving around in cars, and all they do is serve as eyes, and they report whatever they see. We're shifting those to Friday and Saturday nights, and they're going to drive around and look for parties. It's not real hard. There's a bunch of noise, there's a bunch of kids out front drinking, and there's a bunch of cars in the street. It's real easy to spot. And so that will help. The other thing we're going to be working on in the next month is, the internet is where these things spread. Unfortunately, as sophisticated as many of us have become on the internet, we are not sophisticated in young people's networks. And so we're going to start working with the high schools much more closely, and maybe using young people to monitor the internet more closely, and maybe even doing keyword searches and adding some science to it so we can spot them before they start. And when people come to knock on the door for the party, they'll see a sheriff's car out front. Those are some of the things we're going to do. So, did somebody find me a clicker? Thanks. Just as he was saying Rex Parris, I realized I didn't have my clicker. So, a lot of exciting things are happening that's going to benefit the entire Antelope Valley. We're still at the head of the list of a lot of global development that I think is coming our way. If not the things that are in the hopper now, then there's things that are already we're planting the seeds for. And I want you all to take a good look at this community. I want you to really absorb it and feel it, because it's changing. It's going to be a whole different place just 5 years from now. And 10 years from now, it's going to be totally different. I was born here. I was born on Lancaster Boulevard. I grew up in Palmdale. And where I used to take my Boy Scout hikes and camp are now housing tracks. So I've seen incredible changes in this community, and it is nothing compared to what's coming. The reality is this community is going to change whether we want it to or not. I think all of us, there's a little sense of us that would like to say, let's stay the way we are. We don't want to be a metropolitan area. But we are going to be a metropolitan area whether we like it or not. It depends what type of metropolitan area we're going to be. We can be a prosperous, vibrant, upper-end community, or we can be LA's new slum. And trust me, there are people in LA who would prefer that we were LA's new slum. Let's just move all their problems north. Let's keep all the money down in the city. Let's keep all the social welfare programs in the city, but let's move all the people who would benefit the most up into the upper desert. There are people that really want to do that. They have a formulated plan to do that. It's because real estate in the cities has become so valuable. Us saying we don't want them to come isn't going to do anything. Us putting obstacles to them coming is not going to do anything. I have never seen a demographic migration of people that has been successfully stopped anywhere in the world. Not anywhere in the world. The science tells us you can't do it. Why bother? But what we can do is do something else. And what I think something else is to become economically vibrant. And then I don't care who comes, because we'll have the job training for them, we'll have the jobs for them. We're going to have, right now we have a 17% unemployment. I think within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be begging for workers, is what I hope is going to happen. And let me tell you how we're going to get there. Right now, what we've been doing in the last year is building the economic base. Because, the state stole our money, and every city in California is whining and crying and beating their chest and talking about those terrible people in Sacramento that we elected. It's silly. And blaming other people for economic reality. Economic reality is we have to find new money. We have to find new ways of generating capital. And the fact of the matter is nobody's really paid much attention to it, because it was just real easy just to tax people, or let the state send you the money, let them send redevelopment money to you. It was almost like the cities were welfare recipients who had been there their whole lives and knew nothing else. But in a sense, a lot of cities are that way. And now it's a new way, and they don't know what to do. Lancaster, fortunately, with Vern Lawson's leadership in economic redevelopment, we have some incredibly bright, courageous, scary people, because they come up with some really outrageous ideas. And my position with them is try them. Give it a chance. You fail, you fail. The only way we learn anything is to fail first. Go try to play golf if you've never played golf before. It's amazing how hard it is to hit that ball. We cannot be afraid to fail. And as a result of that, we're doing some stuff that I think is truly, truly amazing. Little stuff, like have you seen the Outlook magazine that we send out? What an incredible vehicle. Have you noticed that there are now partners in the Outlook program? They didn't get there free. There's a lot of ways cities can generate money. We're aggressively pursuing the internet-based companies that sell over the internet. If there's a company out there selling stuff over the internet, we'll build them an office, because the reality is they generate an incredible amount of tax that we can now bring into the community. The auto dealerships, You know, I hate saying this stuff in Palmdale. No, I don't. I should hate saying it. But we are competing. You know, we're competing with every city out there. And I'm not shy about that. I'm not stepping away from it. There isn't 2 dealerships we brought to Lancaster that would have gone here. There were, one dealership, there were 2. And we do it by aggressively selling what Lancaster can offer businesses. The day that a city can be an obstacle to a business are over. It just can't happen because you need those businesses to thrive because that's what funds the city. And so we've become partners. You know, what I told Subaru was, get on our internet. You tell us how we can help sell your cars, and we'll do it. I believe cities should become marketers. You know, the message that we're going to be sending to the citizens of Lancaster are shop more in Lancaster. It's not shop only in Lancaster, it's just shop more. If you can just shop a little bit more, most of our economic issues that we're afraid of next year are never going to come to pass. How many people have seen Lancaster Boulevard, actually been there? Those of you who haven't, you're in for a treat. I mean, what Scott Ehrlich has done to that boulevard is just unbelievable. And it's just beginning. Once it's completed, we're going to bring new and innovative ways to make people want to come there, down to the sounds they will hear as they walk down the boulevard. That entire boulevard is wired for sound. You know, there's remarkable science out there that sound really can change people's mood and desire to be someplace. We can lower stress levels. We can make it comfortable to be there. And you're going to be amazed, and I'm keeping that a secret until we actually start playing it, what it is. It's not Mozart. There's actually sounds that are conducive to people coming. We are not leaving any stone unturned to make that Boulevard Shopping Center successful. And the projections, you know, whenever you measure something, it changes. But the projections are that, well, an example is Senator Runner is probably going to be on that, what's that he's running for? Board of Equalization. And so he was looking for an office for his Board of Equalization. Went to Scott Ehrlich and wanted it on the Boulevard, and Scott said no. This is too valuable of commercial real estate. This is for businesses, and it's just too valuable to put an office there. That is what we're projecting for downtown Lancaster Boulevard. When the developer is turning people away, you know you're onto something that is really, really going to be hot. One of the biggest things the Antelope Valley has that I don't think we promote enough is, we've got the best soccer fields in the country. In the country. Now, my kids used to play club soccer. I hated it. My wife would make me get in that car and go watch those soccer games down in San Diego. It was but I was astonished at what these kids were playing on. Doesn't even compare to what we have in the Antelope Valley. What if we did that for all the swimmers out there? 2 Olympic-sized pools, we would be the swimming capital. All these swimmers have a real difficult time finding a place to compete, but it requires an Olympic-sized pool, and it requires a couple of them. Those are things we're looking at. What the fairgrounds has been doing, the motocross, has anybody seen that? They fill the Lancaster hotels. We're looking at putting go-kart racetracks there. We're really working closer and closer with the fairgrounds to make that a tourist attractant. That we're going to see some phenomenal things. But we have to recognize we have to start doing these things differently. Throwing up a convention center isn't going to work anymore. I mean, why would we throw up a convention center? We are the last people to do it. You make a lot of money on the convention center when you're the first guy to do it. You all know that. How many, well, you're all business people. You can only have so many individual type businesses. Pretty soon you eviscerated the market. We have to look at absolutely new ways to do this. And I think the Lancaster staff is being exceptional in how they do that. The most important challenge facing us is job creation. And the only way I know how to do that is globally. You know, again, when you've got everybody competing for a very small piece of the pie, it makes no sense to get online. It never has made sense to me. When I graduated from law school, there was a reason I came back to Lancaster. There was only one other personal injury lawyer in Lancaster. You know, my wife said, well, you know, why don't we live in Newport? Well, because every personal injury lawyer is living in Newport. It's a nice place to live, you know? You have to go where no one else is. And interestingly enough, we have not run into any competition when we go global. You know, sure, Los Angeles is there, New York is there, Chicago's there, major cities are there. But cities of 140,000 people, I haven't met anybody yet. You know, the BYD, they haven't made a decision yet, but it's looking better and better. One of the reasons we're now at the top of the running of that, and I'm confident that we are. We're at the actual top of the running. But who was beating us out was Portland. Portland was there where they were really looking. And Portland had a lot of stuff we didn't have, like a port. Big thing when you're shipping cars. And so some people were laughing, you know, when I decided to go head to head with Portland. One of the things I've learned to do is to bear the laughter. You know, I think at least for me, to be successful at something, it always entails bearing laughter. But when we went to China and met with the BYD folks, Portland hadn't been there. At least Portland's mayor had not been there. They sent some staffers, but the mayor hadn't come. It requires us to compete in ways that other cities our size are not competing. And fortunately, I'm able to do that. You know, this community has been very good to us. And financially, I'm able to do that. But as a community, we have to start thinking about recognizing we need to fund our elected officials to do this, to go global. If you want them to be able to do this, they've got to be able to pay for it. To me, it doesn't matter. I don't mind paying for it. It's, you know, my kids mind it because it's their money. But I don't mind it. But I could use some help. You know, I could use some help from other school districts, from other cities, and the electorate. And the electorate is really you folks, you know, because your influence is, every one of you have this enormous amount of influence, and they will follow what you think and do. You need to recognize that when we are in times of economic distress, that is often the time to spend money, not hold it back. Every time we have gone into an economic crisis in the office, what we do is we spend more money. We do it in marketing, we do it in hiring better people, but we never pull back when we're crashing, because we know we've got to do something different, we've got to do something better. And you know, it'd be a lot easier meeting with Chinese officials if I had the superintendent of the school district there with me. Because the big thing in China is education. And that's a huge issue. And I would just throw that out to you, is that perhaps that's something we ought to start thinking about. One of the things where we're spending money is we brought in Coldwell banker Richard Ellis to come in and bring those internet companies to us. You know, we are scouring the nation for tax-generating businesses. And, you know, what I often see as an obstacle from the local chambers of commerce. You know, why are you spending money on outsiders? I'm spending money on anything that will increase our tax revenue without having to tax our citizens. And yeah, I can see the frustration. I can see that it's not fair. You know, other day I read a letter from a friend of mine, a friend for 50 years. That's how long I've known her husband. About why am I putting deputies on Lancaster Boulevard when she's been robbed and shot? You know, good letter, good question. I can see why she thinks that's unfair. And the reason I'm doing it is because we have a city to build. And sometimes that requires decisions that are sometimes unfair. You know, it's not the individual that we have to focus on. It is the city. It is all of us. Because we are all going to thrive or we are all going to sink. And there isn't any doubt in my mind that we are not over that cusp yet. You know, close. We're almost over that hump where I can almost sleep at night. And just when I think I can, I've got 5 more minutes, okay, I'm gonna have to go fast. Because I want to give you some question time. Then a 14-year-old girl gets killed. You know, the monsters are still out there. And we don't have the luxury of a full night's sleep yet. And that's true with all of us. The great stuff is we are really doing great stuff with China. This is Dr. Li, who's on the right. And he's literally talking about $200 million worth of investment. Now, how that program works, I'll work through the slide. And I've told you about BYD. The biggest thing with China is relationship. You know, you have to, they rely on relationship. And it's real simple as to why. It's nothing mysterious. In the United States, we have an incredibly sophisticated legal system, right? And if you and I get in a fight, well, we sue each other. You know. And thank God you do, by the way. There's protections in place. In China, their legal system has not yet evolved to that level. And so relationship is everything, because you have to rely on the people you're doing business with. And that's why Lancaster has made such an incredible effort to build the relationship, but more importantly, show them we'll do what we say we're going to do. The Byd Kb Partnership, I don't know if any of you have had a chance to see that home. That is the first home in the world that produces more electricity than it consumes that is under $200,000. Think about that. Free electricity, under $200,000. It is absolutely world-changing. You know, and it astonishes me that everybody hasn't rushed to go see it. You know, for the first time in history, you can buy a home that's affordable and never have to pay an electric bill. How wonderful is that? And that was not possible 8 months ago, because I was sitting in the meeting in Westwood with BYD and KB, the president of KB Homes and all of his engineers, and they were telling me it is not possible to do that. Well, I thought that was ridiculous. What do you mean it's not possible? It's 2010. You can do anything. You know, we can grow hearts, for heaven's sake. You know, they actually grow them in the lab now. They don't beat, but they grow. The point is, but they agreed they would try. And they agreed they would try because the city agreed to waive all the permitting fees. And more importantly, they said, how long is it going to take to get a permit? And I looked at my watch and I said, 10 minutes. And that's how long it took, 10 minutes. You know, cities have got to recognize, and I think Lancaster does recognize, every day you hold up a project costs money. In most cities, when you go to build a major project, you have to put in 20% just for delays of government. The cost goes up 20%. And that's if you're lucky. A lot of businesses, a lot of developments don't get built because the delay took longer and there's no money to pay for it and they go bankrupt. But to me, that's insanity. You know, we're not reinventing the wheel here. It is not difficult. It just requires a commitment to get it done when you say you will. And to that end, what we've done is we've developed a computer system now where the developer can go on the internet and see exactly where he is in the process. And we're going to be accountable for saying, September 10th, your permit will be done by September 10th. by God, it better be done by September 10, or they're going to call me. And I want them to call me. And I'm going to find out exactly why it wasn't. Because we should be accountable to do what we say we're going to do. And if we could just do that, this valley will grow at a phenomenal rate. I took a lot of heat for Kitty, the deputy mayor. And I should have taken a lot of heat for that. But I really am indebted to my council for recognizing, here's a person that any way I slice this is going to be competing with them for public attention. And that's what politicians crave, is public attention. We all say we don't, but come on, I mean, we love these cameras. We can't get enough of it, And for them to give up some of that to somebody who had not been elected, who's only 27 years old, had only been in the valley a year, I thought took a lot of love for the city, because it was the right thing to do. And now when I go to China, and she actually went with me the first time, but now that she's the deputy mayor, it means a lot that the deputy mayor is meeting with them and can actually speak their language and can develop relationships that I simply can't do. And that's what it takes if you're going to start operating globally. The biggest partner we have is Mike and Christine Antonovich. When I first got elected, I hated the county because I had lived here my whole life. And if you lived here, we always feel somewhat like the stepchild of the county. At least I always thought that's how we were treated. And a lot of that I took out on Mike Antonovich. I didn't have a personal relationship with him. But I have never met anybody more committed to the success of this community than Michael Antonovich. I mean, he works tirelessly. Well, in China, when I had to go and take a nap, he was still working. The whole China thing is the result of their efforts. And it's just going to knock your socks off when it happens. The whole thing with the crime initiative, without Sheriff Baca and Mike Antonovich, none of that would have happened. I would have just been making noise. I'd have been like that mayor in New Orleans, screaming, shouting, swearing, but nobody really paying any attention. If it hadn't been for those two, none of this would have happened. We are really fortunate in having those leaders. When I went to China, I was astonished who I was meeting with. We were really meeting with high government officials. And I thought, why is this? Why, and nobody gave me any notes, nobody prepared me, nobody told me, well, you got to go meet with this guy. And next thing I know, I'm in this huge room. It was an amazing experience. Well, now I know the answer to that. Every major company in China is partially owned by the government of China. And they're looking very closely at us. Because in 2016, the cost of production in China will have gone up, so that when you add the cost of shipping, it's now equal. Might be 2017. But the Chinese do one thing better than anybody in the world. They plan ahead. I'm studying Chinese history, and regime changes were planned 500 years in advance. 500 years in advance. That's the culture of China, is they are looking into the future like no other culture out there. When Chow En-lay was asked about the French Revolution, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, he said, too early to tell. That really is the Chinese view of things. And they're not planning what happens with us business-wise 10 years from now. They're thinking 100 years from now. It's a long-term, cohesive relationship that they're building. I hope everybody understands the EB-5 program. Despite the commercial saying I'm going to flood the area with Chinese, red communist Chinese that are going to, pillage our village and carry off our women. Remember that commercial? Isn't that essentially what it was? The EB-5 program works like this. You pay $1 million, an investment. It has to be a new business. Can't be a business you're buying. And it has to create 10 jobs. And it has to create 10 jobs for 2 years. And at the end of that 2 years, when you've submitted all the paperwork showing that that has been accomplished, then you get a green card, and you can live anywhere you want in the United States. There's a tremendous amount of stability in the United States that doesn't exist elsewhere. And people will pay $1 million for those green cards. Isn't any question about it. Their kids can go to American universities. In China, education is everything. They can get there without having this horrendous testing process that takes place now. It's just a win-win for everybody. This is not a situation where the Chinese are coming to take our jobs. It's a situation where the Chinese are coming to create jobs. It's just a huge win-win. One of the reasons we're uniquely situated is we're in the enterprise zone. You know, all of you, I think, understand how the enterprise zone works with the tax credits and all. The other big thing is we're going to the World Economic Forum in Tianjin. Mike Antonovich arranged that to happen. And we're not just going to seminars there. What we're doing is we're promoting companies to come to the Antelope Valley and build. They're coming to meet people, to expand global corporations. It's just, again, the recognition that we have to compete globally, and we have to do it in a sophisticated, articulate, financially feasible manner. And one of the things I would suggest all of you start paying attention to is who your elected leaders are, because that is the world they find themselves in today. You're going to need people that know how to create those relationships, that know how to what it really is studying. You know, I tell people that the only reason I'm a successful lawyer is I have an iron butt. And I'm finding that's true with being mayor too, meaning I got an iron butt that can sit in the chair and read the stuff, you know, and it takes hours and hours and hours. And we need more people to be able to do that. And Natalia's telling me to say that. And the great thing is we're going to have a sister city relationship with in China. And again, that's a process, you know. I sent him the letter. He sent me a letter. Now I got to go meet with him and extend the invitation. He has to come visit us. And then after that, we'll have a sister city relationship. It's not the sister city relationship that a lot of us are familiar with. This is one where we actually promote each other. We'll be sending students there. One of the first students to go is my son. I think it's critical that my children learn Mandarin, and so I'm arranging internships for them to do that. And I would suggest you do the same. Look into it. There's a lot of opportunity once that sister city relationship develops. And, you know, quite frankly, none of this is about us. It's all about our children, because it's a 10-year, 20-year process that we're now creating. And if we start looking at it that way, as to how is it going to benefit our children, there's an incredible number of opportunities that are now being generated. Another thing we're doing is we're talking to them about sending teachers from China to our local high schools to teach Mandarin. They pay for them, it's free. You know, it's a great exchange program. The second to last slide is our challenges. For 2011, what I hope to focus on is community health. We still have the highest mortality rate of any community in LA County from preventable diseases, and every indication is it's going to be a lot worse. If we don't collectively as a community figure out a way to attack this obesity problem, we're going to start seeing dead children. You know, that's what they're telling us. Type 2 diabetes is now being found with 10-year-olds. 10-year-olds. A totally preventable disease. You know? I don't know how many of you have friends that have type 2 diabetes, but it's blindness. It means amputations. You know, on the reservations, there are children who think that getting old means having your legs cut off. I mean, that's how many older people have their legs cut off. That was true on the reservation. That's now becoming true for us. You know, the projections of what obesity is doing. That is a problem that's only going to be solved on a community basis. We've got to start thinking about it. None of us are going to like what we see every day in the store pretty soon. We're going to see really sick people. And we as a community have got to start focusing on that. And you know, we're putting together a group of doctors and all to do that, but what I told them is, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. The first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to personally fund some of this, is we need to find out what's worked in other communities, and then we have to start bringing it home. And we have to start bringing it into our businesses. We've got to start encouraging our employees. You know, if we could just get rid of the obesity thing, it would solve the cost of healthcare for most of us. You know, it would bring down our health insurance to something that was affordable. Oh, the schools, we're going to put together a community charter school that is just going to knock your socks off. We'll be announcing that in about 6 months. And again, we have to get more advanced in public safety. You know, I keep running into roadblocks on putting the Sky Sentinel up, but that Sky Sentinel is coming. Before I die, that plane is going to be in that air, because I think it's going to reduce crime another 30%. The other thing is we've done, both cities have done an amazing job with their neighborhood watch, but it's not enough. It's simply not enough. The most effective thing we could do is put a neighborhood watch on each block. And so when you leave here today, I want you to ask yourself, where's the neighborhood watch sign on my block? And if there's not one, do something about it.